News.
A very good evening to you and welcome to News Sources, a show that allows you to interrogate views ranging from development, corruption, good governance, among others. Here, we don't mince our words or stifle opinion, as long as those opinions and comments stay within what is just, what is fair, and what is factual. Welcome to Ladies' Night on this our Wednesday night, offering you this edition of News Sources.
Indeed, it's only here where we don't shy away from questioning those with the instruments of power and those seeking the power. To us, opinion matters, and at times, some of the sentiments expressed here might not go down well with those who hold different views on different matters, but we allow you to have your say. I am Julie Masiga. Good evening and welcome to the show. But first, the highlights.
Your praise for Adan Haraki, actually, my comment was that it appeared musical. It was like you are composing a song for him. And we will read you that letter and you confirm if it came from you.
I'm aware of it, Honorable Chair.
We must see an independent audit done, essentially commissioned by the Auditor General, no less.
We are helping the President to fight corruption by applying pressure on public officers who have been mentioned in corruption.
Well, the Public Accounts Committee continues to receive testimony in its investigation of what is threatening to dwarf all other corruption scandals in this government and previous ones. Questions are already being raised over the quality of sessions and just how competent Parliament is in conducting the probe. Previous witnesses like Ben Gevi and just yesterday Josephine Kafura ran rings around the members of Parliament who are forced in many instances into a shouting match.
Interestingly, in the wordings of Waiguru's letter, she had already concluded that Harake's IFMIS password had been stolen, even before the investigations commenced. Members may recall that this is the positions he presented to the media. However, in their investigations, the DCI confirmed otherwise, and that is on record. One can only conclude that this maneuver by the CS was an attempt to shield Harake from the onset. It is on record that the then Cabinet Secretary never engaged me on the matter at all, preferring to deal directly and only with Harake and Noor.
Right, let's start with the NYS scandal instead of that particular story. So we can discuss what happened at the NYS, which scandal has refused to go away, basically. It's like a bad smell that has refused to lift, and people are still being grilled before the Public Accounts Committee. What do we make of this? Because all roads seem to lead back to Anne Waiguru. Faith.
Maybe want to
first introduce. I might want to introduce my guest. So right next to me here is Faith Rono, who is a communications specialist right here at the Standard Group. Right next to her is Wangari Mwikia, who is a financial advisor and MD of Expertise KE. And of course, my co-host Sharon Momanyi, sorry about that. Diving right back into it, the NYS scandal. All roads seem to be leading back to Anne Waiguru. Is this a coincidence, or what is happening here, Faith? What do you think?
I mean, what we have actually seen since the PSC started its investigations and getting witnesses to give their testimonies is that almost every one of those witnesses is pointing fingers at the former CS Anne Waiguru. But I just want to talk about today's. What happened today at the Public Accounts Committee, and of course the former PS appearing, Mr. Mangiti. I mean, I think for me he appeared like an accounting officer, because as a permanent secretary, he's actually the accounting officer, and he's been entrusted by not only the president of this country, but also by taxpayers to ensure that money that has been appropriated to the ministry is spent appropriately. However, what we have seen today is a man who appeared to have sort of felt a lot of frustration while he was at the ministry. He actually said that he was intimidated by the former CS. I think for me that was one thing that really captured my attention. But having said that, we should not forget that this is he's the PS. And having seen all these things happening, remember that he actually said that in his documentation that he presented to the PSC today, that he has actually given practical examples of cases where there were payments that were supposed to be made, and he was opposed to that. You know, we're looking at almost 20 companies that were being run by Kafura, and he actually said that I was opposed to some of those payments. I was opposed to some of the procedures that were going on. I'm just saying that he should have resigned. Yes, before, I mean, because he saw all these things.
He is in that position as a PS, an accounting officer.
Exactly.
His position is appointed by the, the presidency itself. Is not, an appointee of Waiguru. And when he says that he was coerced, like, for example, to sign that letter creating the deputy DG's position, I mean, is there any instance that we see him complaining, saying that he's being obstructed from, doing his duty and all this? Like, everything he was saying, it doesn't just hold any water. What do you think on that?
I think it's true what Faith was saying, that in the PFM Act, and it's in no less the PFM Act, that the accounting officer is given this responsibility. So at the end of the day, the buck does stop with the accounting officer. And in finance, he has a plethora of responsibilities, and so it does fall on his desk. But that being said, I find it hard to believe that the cabinet secretary, especially when it's these some amounts of money, that they don't know, they don't have a role in making a decision in conjunction with the principal secretary. So I think there is some responsibility that lies also with the cabinet secretary, because she's the cabinet secretary is ultimately the head of the
budget is in your docket, so you must know what is
so
going
even
on.
if the principal secretary is the accounting officer, I don't think anything gets signed off, especially when it comes to that amount of money, without the CS say so. And I think also we have to agree that politics also plays into. There's also the issue of being pressured into doing things. He's also, as he said several times, that he was coerced into doing a lot of the signing a lot of the documents on her behalf. So, but there are rules, and accounting officer, there are penalties to, and I think even jail time.
Exactly. I mean, if he really believes in the rule of law, which is actually very clear, then he should have come out at that time and said, you know what, this is happening in this ministry, and I don't think I am part of it. I shouldn't be part of it. And we have bodies in this country that probably, that we agree and we understand. I personally, at least, believe that we don't have the right system, the right legal framework to fight corruption. But even then, as an accounting officer and holding such a big position in government, he should have come out and said, somebody is coercing me into signing this document. I'm resigning and I'm going to the ESCC, I'm giving statements, and at least, I mean, we need individuals, and that is why we're saying that in this government, we have the wrong people, holding positions of very, very high positions in government. So the top leadership is failing. So you cannot expect, these junior officers to take responsibility when even the most senior person in the accounting function knows that actually these things are happening against the law and sits pretty,
But Faith, I think also, Mangiti has also been a civil servant for a very long time. So I'm sure he's also playing the game that he's been taught ever since.
He knows how government works.
Yeah, so I don't think he would just suddenly turn around because he's in a new system of government and start playing by a different tune, because that's a tune that he knows. So I do agree with you that the laws really, he should be playing by a different tune and be more responsible in the things that he does. But he's been there for a long time. He's part of the system.
Right.
Yeah.
And what Mangiti was saying today, that the former CS Waiguru was totally in charge of everything going on, saying that actually all the officers implicated, in this scam. Now I have to finish this discussion. Reported directly to her, and it's exactly what the NYS boss, former NYS boss Nelson Gedenji was saying. So it brings to question: is this, an alliance of interest of sorts? But I guess that's a discussion for another time now. But let's focus again on, further on this matter of corruption. And the Public Accounts Committee, continues to receive testimony in its investigation. And we've seen time and again a number of investigations on its table, probing a number of things from the time of, Ababu na Mwamba. We've seen a number of investigations, but really it's like a wheel that is just churning to oblivion. And we want to talk about, just how effective this committee is. It is a National Assembly organ that is meant to be part of that graft, fighting instruments in the country. And right now we want to talk to Dennis Itumbi, who is a director, digital at, the presidency. Thank you, Dennis, for joining us this evening. Of course, it has been a very busy time for you, just answering to all these things. Thank you for joining us tonight. Let's just start off by, right now Kenya has, all right. It seems everything has stopped and we are just talking corruption, and we must. And before we talk about all these things you've been talking about, Dennis, saying that the media has been misreporting a number of these things, has the government lost it on the fight against corruption? Let's just start there, Dennis.
The government has never lost it on the fight against corruption. In fact, the government is on top of it. This is the first government since Kenya got its independence in 1963 to have had to fire top officials at the CS level. Then from there, we fired PSs. And below that, 175 officials are in various parts of investigation, DPP, or in court. There are over a total of 400 people in court facing various graft allegations. My point is this: this administration has not only fought corruption, but also done detection of corruption for it not to happen. Never before have you ever had corruption issues coming up at the stage at which it's detected. Why? Because this government has adopted digitization and automation of government processes faster than any other government, and it has therefore been easy to detect anyone with an appetite to dip their hands or their tongue into the till of taxpayers' money.
And I feel it's just jumping in there, Dennis. You say you are on top of this game. Well, the guy who's on top of the administration, the president himself, asked us, the public, what do we expect him to do? What does that say? I mean, that doesn't show that you're on top of fighting this corruption, Dennis.
Sharon, in 2010, this nation went to a constitutional referendum and voted that the executive had no business in being mkulima number one, mwalimu number one, judge number one, lawyer number one. The people of Kenya decided that the executive is only going to do pillar one of fighting corruption, which is preventive. Then after that, pillar two, which is investigative, the people of Kenya decided to put independent commissions, and they put EACC, which does not answer to the president. They put in the DPP, which is an independent commission under the Constitution, and then the third pillar is prosecution and jailing. And on that, the people of Kenya, in their own accord, decided that they were going to give it to the judiciary. And to ensure that the judiciary did not take instructions from the executive, they went ahead and decided that JSC would appoint judges, would appoint the Chief Justice, and only one name would go to the president. So the president had no choice but to appoint whoever the judiciary themselves decided to have. So in that particular case, the president was not giving up. He was basically saying that we have done what the people of Kenya told us to do. If the people of Kenya want us to do more, then there are several things that the people of Kenya can do. There can be a referendum and return all those powers that were there before in the imperial presidency that Kenyans rejected. Or he has gone further and actually innovated outside the law and created what he has called the multi-agency framework that brings together the Kenya Revenue Authority. He's created an asset recovery. Never before in this country have we ever had 1.6 billion recovered from people who are yet to be charged in court through the assets recovery. Then the financial recovery center has also been put. We have put in a witness protection. He has gone further than that and said, look, there is a way that we can still fight corruption beyond just the law. And what has he done on that? He went to Parliament on his State of the Nation address and named top government officials and told them, look, I will not do what the former presidents have done, said step aside, you investigate, and then you come back. Once you've gotten into this mud, we get you out, and then you go through the process, and as you go out, we replace you. So this government, this president, has done what no one else has done. He's not giving up, and we are not saying it's rosy or that we are comfortable as government. Yes, Sharon.
Dennis, it's all well and good to have all these institutions, but it seems that they're failing us because we haven't seen any actual conviction of somebody convicted of money laundering or fraud or any kind of crime related to graft ever since this government came into office. And the president himself said that despite all these institutions, he still feels that his hands are tied. So what is the actual record on fighting corruption of the Jubilee administration?
First of all, the president and the executive branch of government has no business prosecuting and sending people to jail. That is the business of the judiciary. Unless you are saying the president should then go and become a chief justice for a month, for the people that have been named, he goes and sits in court and prosecutes people and sends them to jail. The business of convicting and sending people to jail belongs exclusively under the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya.
Okay, Dennis, this is fine. We've had all this talk, right? We've had all this talk about institutions being independent, the president, you know, this constitution we voted in. So what really then is the place of the president? I mean, when it comes down to it, he is that sole person that is supposed to unify us, to give this country direction. Of course, he's not working in a vacuum, but so no pressure from him, no nothing he can do. So what exactly is his place in all this, Dennis?
When the people of Kenya went to a constitutional referendum, we decided the place of the president. And the place of the president is in the first pillar of fighting corruption.
Right.
Let me go back again. There are three pillars of the Constitution, or fighting corruption. One is prevention, second is investigation, final is prosecution. The president, we placed him at prevention. At prevention, he has ensured anybody who has dipped their toe, making sure that getting in is detected either through IFMIS or through a whistleblowing act, that whistleblowers are protected within government.
Can I just interject you there, Dennis, when you talk about IFMIS?
Yeah, sure.
Because I know digital is your area, and you say that the government has done a lot to actually digitize records and financial processes, but it seems more and more that IFMIS is easily corrupted and billions are lost almost at the touch of a button. So how effective actually is that IFMIS in this new constitutional dispensation?
Every corruption case that you know of and which you attribute to Jubilee administration has been detected by the use of IFMIS. So IFMIS has not failed. In fact, IFMIS has helped us detect fraud at a faster rate. When human beings attempt to get into the digital platform and manipulate it, IFMIS has detected them. That money that was lost within the NYS and which is being prosecuted in court as we speak, everyone who is in that court, or everything that they are ascribed to, has already been recovered by government and has been recovered by the Assets Recovery Center and is currently within government. In other words, what I'm trying to say is this. IFMIS, more than the manual system, has detected fraud at a faster rate long before people spend that money and enables us to recover that money. It has not only recovered the money that was stolen, but has also recovered money that was not paid tax
that is being manipulated,
so people who are tax cheats. But you see, the manipulation which we are speaking about at NYS, because I'm sure you're referring to the NYS issue.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's also
if you're speaking about the NYS issue, the issue that came out from PS and from NYS itself, the DGs, and everyone who has appeared in that committee, they have clearly said it was password. If you remember what the verdict of the CID who was investigating was, the verdict was simple. It is impossible to manipulate IFMIS. By the way, Sharon, IFMIS is used in 82 countries in the world, 18 in Africa. Kenya has consistently won the award for the best use of IFMIS and best deployment of IFMIS. Those are good statistics to understand, because this is an evaluation of peers and an evaluation of financial experts.
All right, Dennis, just stay with us as we fine-tune this discussion now to the latest scandal, or something that I know you do not want to call that. So meanwhile, on the other side of town, corruption is continuing to tag the Jubilee government. Health PS Nicholas Muraguri was grilled today by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Muraguri, who has given himself a clean bill of health, insists that there was absolutely no scandal at the ministry, rather, and that those who leaked the interim audit report are malicious. All right, and Dennis, just staying with you on this matter, because I've seen you speaking widely on this issue, especially on the reporting and the journalism around this issue. What, in your opinion, as you on this platform, would you say was wrong? What was done wrong in the journalism of that, of you know, just outing this scandal at the Ministry of Health?
Journalism failed at its finest moment. It is a case of a bride appearing in her wedding in white and soiling it intentionally with the flowers that have been rained on before they say, I do. Journalism passed sensation without facts. In other words, when you look at this interim audit report, which is what the media relied on and it's signed by Bernard Mushere, it says this in the opening: the ongoing audit review on end-of-year procurements and payments has revealed pertinent issues on the following procurements and payments, which raises red flags on possible fraud. Page by page in this report, Sharon, this report repeats possible fraud. Now, how the media decided this is a mega corruption scandal, even in your own brief on the side of the screen, which many Kenyans are watching, you call it mafia house. You call corruption demo. Where is corruption on this issue? It is an internal audit that has not declared any corruption.
Is it your submission that no corruption occurred?
Okay, sorry.
Is it your submission that no fraud occurred?
It is my submission. On the Ministry of Health?
Yes. Are you saying no money was lost, nothing
submission.
inappropriate was done?
It is my submission that the internal audit did not say there was anything. It did not say there was anything wrong. It just said there was a possibility something was wrong. Therefore, as journalists, they removed the word possible and decided it was fraud. I ask, where is fraud in this document?
But shouldn't the Ministry of Health and its officials rightly be treated as a suspect, given that it was possible fraud, which is more likely to move in the direction of fraud than in the opposite direction? Because while there's smoke, surely there's fire, Dennis. Isn't it clear that something inappropriate happened at the ministry?
Before smoke, where there is smoke, there is fire, yes. But before smoke becomes fire, a journalist cannot say there is fire. For instance, if we attacked where I am now and killed the 7 people I am with, including the cameraman, a journalist cannot go and say 50 people are dead without the confirmation of actually how many people are in this room. Facts, truth is the only guide to journalism. In fact, the code of conduct for journalism, and this I'm reading directly from the code of conduct as uploaded on the Media Council website, it clearly says, in no uncertain terms and in very clear language, the truth, facts shall never be sacrificed in the coverage of stories. That is not my writing. That is in your code of ethics. On integrity, it repeats the same thing. When you go to the first chapter of that accuracy and the accuracy and fairness, it clearly says that a person subject to this act shall not express their opinions and ideas as news, only facts.
All right, Dennis, let's stick with the facts and also let's stick with the smoke, right? And the smoke here is that it is a fact that for any internal audit to take place, you know, the auditor was working with documents that were given to him by the Ministry of Health, right? And out of these documents that he was given, he found query. That is a smoke right there, isn't it?
No problem. And so the journalism story would have been that there are questions that have been asked about management of finances in the Ministry of Health, but the story cannot be in any way you imagine that it was fraud. In fact, they went further. When you calculate the figures in this audit report, they add up to 3.2 billion, not 5 billion. Now, when I did my mathematics in primary school, not even high school, in primary school, the rounding off of 3.2 would have gone to 3 billion and not 5 billion.
But does that mean that 3.2 billion was actually misappropriated?
We must agree.
Is any shilling too much, Dennis?
No. Misappropriation does not appear in this report anywhere.
When
that
you
is
say
a figment of
billion,
imagination.
which figure are you referring to?
3.2 billion is what was queried. So the story is 3.2 billion, usage of 3.2 billion is being questioned. The story cannot be that there was mega corruption, people have stolen 3.2 billion in the Ministry of Health. That cannot be the story in any shade of journalism. Not even a first year in the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication can write such an intro.
Okay, Dennis, that report that you're referring to, which you have on your hand, I believe, the one quoting 3.2 billion, this came, I think, 2 days after this scandal broke out, right? And I'm just having trouble understanding how a comprehensive audit can take place that fast. Within 2 days, you know, that you have rounded up all these figures, that what is actually lost is not 5 billion, then it's 3 billion. I mean, how did we reach at 3 billion? I'm just trying to
Again, Sharon,
understand.
nothing is lost.
Okay, all right.
Again,
Mr.
Sharon, nothing
money
is
that
lost.
has not been accounted as to how it was managed. Can we call it that?
You see, let me say this. The money that has not been accounted, that would have been a perfectly good story for you. And that would have been a story that is acceptable in journalism, and it is a fact. Now, when the audit, if you look at this report I'm holding, there is a letter dated 29th August. I have another letter with me that is dated 24th of October. This is this thing starts by saying an ongoing audit review. Now, this is how an internal audit works. Every ministry has an internal auditor within its ranks, forwarded by Treasury. Now, internal auditors do not do investigations. Only forensic auditors do investigations. This report is done by an internal auditor. The purpose is to strengthen the institution. Now, when you come back and say 3.2 billion is lost because the media has made everyone believe has been lost, then you must provide proof and evidence as a media person, because this is just the first step. An auditor writes to management responds, the auditor then says, this response. For instance, let me give you one issue. On page 4 of this report, the audit reads this. We found after the supplementary estimates provides for mobile clinics which are phantom. In other words, this audit says the mobile clinics are ghosts, they don't exist. But on a simple response, the ministry provided photos and even provided the physical location. Your journalist in Mombasa went to Miritini.
On that same point, Dennis, if I can just interrupt you, because in their response to the internal audit, the Ministry of Health has published and said that monies allocated to the free maternity program were redirected to buy these mobile clinics at 10 million shillings a pop. Was that, if not morally reprehensible, was that a normal procedure to happen in the ministry where monies for one particular purpose are diverted to another one, and then those mobile clinics stay in Mombasa for months on end with not being used by anyone? How can you justify that?
I'll answer that question this way. First of all, 3.8 billion of that money had already been dispatched to counties to cater for free maternity. So that was already done. And already people had received and gotten all that kind of money that was required for free maternity. Then the ministry is left with what you, in normal terms, you'd call a saving, but in government we call them balances on a vote. So the ministry is left with some money. They have two choices. Do they buy, because the money was dispersed, I have a table here, was dispersed to the following. KP vaccines, it bought medical supplies, supply of Ebola surveillance forms, medical supplies, infrared thermal scanners, mosquito vector control chemicals. And then what the media has not told us is that a company owned by the Nation Media Group called Gazette Limited also received 2 million shillings. Are you also saying the nation is corrupt? Because you have been saying it is corrupt. The nation is part of this. On 2/10/2015, they received 2,678,720 shillings. Is the nation corrupt? Is the Standard saying the nation is corrupt? But then the thing is this. And I have a full list. I have a list of about 50 guys. Was the payment erroneous? No, because I have a letter here, which if we have enough time, I'm able to read to you. And because I've just found it, let me just refer to it.
Sorry,
the letter says this. It is dated 14th March. Okay. Okay, but to say this, the process went through Treasury, it went through Parliament, and it was approved.
All right. All right, you've made your point, and I just want my guest to ask you a question, and I'll just make my submission as you have made yours, that
Fantastic.
I hope as much energy as you are using to dispel this scandal that you are denying is a scandal is the same effort that is being used to now find this mismanaged, as you call it, 3 billion shillings?
3.2 billion
yeah,
shillings.
because that's what Kenyans really want to know, Dennis.
Yeah,
You know, not want to
actually,
see energy being told
Sharon,
on
it's
what
good
is
for me to
not.
raise an issue about recording. I want to issue an issue about professionalism of the thing, because one, the PS apologized for some remarks attributed to him. But why, in any journalism, in practice of journalism, would anyone record a news source without declaring to them, I am recording you? Especially when it's not an investigative story, you're just looking for a quote. It is unprofessional, it is against the code of ethics of journalism, and it is something that should not only be discouraged in our newsrooms, but completely dispelled.
Well, we thank you for your comments there, Dennis. Do stay with us as we go through the show, but now we have to go for a quick break. Before that, we're asking you on our Twitter question, do you think the Public Accounts Committee is capable of solving the NYS saga? Do you think the Public Accounts Committee is capable of solving the NYS saga? You can reach me at Julie Masiga, Sharon at Sharon_Momanyi, at KTN News, #News Sources. Off for a quick break. We'll be right back. Don't go too far.